Welcome back in final part 4 of Steam. Anyways, let's continue this topic.
Steam's success has led to some criticism for supporting DRM and for being an effective monopoly.
In 2012, Free Software Foundation founder Richard Stallman called DRM using Steam on Linux unethical, but still better than Windows.
Steam's customer service has been highly criticized, with users citing poor response times or lack of response.
In March 2015, Valve was given a failing F grade from the Better Business Bureau due to a large number of complaints about Valve's handling of Steam, leading Valve's Eric Johnson to state that, "We don't feel like our customer service support is where it needs to be right now."
Johnson stated the company plans to better integrate customer support features into the Steam client and be more responsive.
In May 2017, in addition to hiring more staff for customer service, Valve publicized pages that show the number and type of customer service requests it was handling over the last 90 days, with an average of 75,000 entered each day.
Of those, requests for refunds were the largest segment, and which Valve could resolve within hours, followed by account security and recovery requests.
Valve stated at this time that 98% of all service requests were processed within 24 hours of filing.
In August 2011, Valve said Steam's revenue, estimated to be $1 billion in 2010, was comparable to that of its published games.
Gabe Newell said the company was tremendously profitable, being more profitable per employee than companies like Google or Apple.
Valve reported that there were 125 million active accounts on Steam by the end of 2015.
By August 2017, the company reported that there were 27 million new active accounts since January 2016, bringing the total number of active users to at least 150 million.
Most accounts were from North America and Western Europe, with there being a significant growth in accounts from Asia around 2017, spurred by its work to help localize the client and make additional currency options available to purchasers.
In September 2014, 1.4 million accounts belonged to Australian users. This grew to 2.2 million by October 2015.
Valve also considers concurrent users, how many accounts are logged in at the same time, a key indicator of the success of the platform.
In August 2017, Valve reported a peak of 14 million concurrent players, up from 8.4 million in 2015, with 33 million active daily and 67 million active monthly.
By January 2018, the peak online count had reached 18.5 million, with over 47 million daily active users.
During the COVID-19 pandemic in 2020, in which a large proportion of the world's population were at home, Steam saw a concurrent player count of over 23 million in March, along with several games seeing similar record-breaking concurrent counts.
The highest concurrent player count reached 39.2 million by December 2024, in part from the combined releases of Marvel Rivals and Path of Exile 2. And 40 million by February 2025 with the release of Monster Hunter Wilds. In In October 2025, Steam reached a new all-time concurrent user peak of 41.6 million, surpassing its previous record by over a million, a surge attributed largely to the release of Battlefield 6.
An analysis by Alinea Analytics estimated that in the first 11 months of 2025, Steam had brought in $16.3 billion in revenue.
Steam has grown from 7 games in 2004 to over 30,000 by 2019, with additional non-gaming products such as creation software, DLC, and videos, numbering over 20,000.
More than 50,000 games were on the service as of February 2021.
The growth of games on Steam is attributed to changes in Valve's curation approach, which allows publishers to add games without Valve's direct involvement, and games supporting virtual reality technology.
The addition of Greenlight and Direct has accelerated the number of games present on the service, with almost 40% of the 19,000 games on Steam by the end of 2017 having been released in 2017.
Before Greenlight, Valve saw about 5 new games published each week.
Greenlight expanded this to about 70, and which doubled to 180 per week following the introduction of Direct.
Although Steam provides direct sales data to developers and publishers, it does not provide public sales data.
In 2011, Valve's Jason Holtman stated that the company felt that such data was outdated for a digital market.
Data that Valve does provide cannot be released without permission because of a non-disclosure agreement. Developers and publishers have asked for some metrics of sales for games to allow them to judge the potential success of a title by reviewing how similar games have performed.
Algorithms that worked on publicly available data through user profiles to estimate sales data with some accuracy led to the creation of the website Steam Spy in 2015.
Steam Spy was credited with being reasonably accurate, but in April 2018, Valve added new privacy settings that defaulted to hiding user game profiles, stating this was part of compliance with the General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR, of the European Union.
The change broke the method by which Steam Spy had collected data, rendering it unusable.
A few months later, another method had been developed using game achievements to estimate sales with similar accuracy, but Valve shortly changed the Steam API that reduced its functionality.
Some have asserted that Valve used the GDPR change as a means to block methods of estimating sales, although Valve subsequently promised to provide tools to developers to help gain such insights that it says will be more accurate.
In 2020, Simon Carlos revised an approach originally proposed by Mike Boxleiter as early as 2015. With Carlos's method of estimating sales, based on the number of reviews it has on Steam with a modified Boxleiter number used as a multiplication factor. The accessibility of publishing games on digital storefronts like Steam has been described as a key to the popularity of indie games.
As these processes allow developers to publish games on Steam with minimal oversight from Valve, journalists have criticized Valve for lacking curation policies that make it difficult to find quality games among poorly produced games, sometimes called shovelware.
Following the launch of Steam Direct, the video game industry was put on Valve's hands-off approach.
Some praised Valve for favoring avoiding trying to be a moral adjudicator of content and letting consumers decide what content they want to see, while others felt that this would encourage developers to publish games that are purposely hateful and that Valve's reliance on user filters and algorithms may not succeed in blocking undesirable content.
Some further criticized the decision based on the financial gain from avoiding blocking any game content, as Valve collects a cut from sales through Steam.
In 2018, the National Center on Sexual Exploitation denounced the policy for avoiding corporate and social responsibility. In light of the rise of sexual violence and exploitation games being hosted on Steam,
Steam was estimated to have the largest share of the PC digital distribution market in the 2010s.
In 2013, sales via the Steam catalog are estimated to be between 50 and 75% of the total PC gaming market.
In 2010 and 2015, with an increase in retail copies of major game publishers integrating or requiring Steam, retailers and journalists referred to the service as a monopoly, which they claim can be detrimental to the industry and that sector competition would yield positive results for consumers.
Several developers also noted that Steam's influence on the PC gaming market is powerful and one that smaller developers cannot afford to ignore or not work with, but believe that Valve's corporate practices make it a type of benevolent dictator.
Because of Valve's oversight of sales data, estimates of the market share that Steam has of the video game market are difficult to compile.
Stardock, developer of competing platform Impulse, estimated that Steam had a 70% share in 2009.
In February 2011, Forbes reported that Steam sales constituted 50 to 70% of the US $4 billion market for downloaded PC games, and that Steam offered game producers gross margins of 70% of the purchase price, compared with 30% at retail. Steam has been criticized for its reported 30% cut on revenue with publishers from game sales, a value that is similar to other digital storefronts according to IGN.
However, some critics have asserted that the share no longer scales with cheaper costs of serving data.
A 2019 game developers conference survey showed only 6% of the 400 respondents deemed the share justified.
Epic Games' Tim Sweeney postulated that Valve could reduce its cut to 8%, given that content delivery network costs has dropped significantly.
Other services have promoted their sites having a lower cut, including the Epic Games Store and Discord. In November 2009, online retailers Impulse, Direct2Drive and Gamersgate refused to offer Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 because it includes mandatory installation of Steamworks.
Direct2Drive accused Steamworks of being a Trojan horse.
Valve's business development director Jason Holtman replied Steamworks features were chosen by developers and based on consumer wants and that Modern Warfare 2 was one of Steam's greatest sellers.
In December 2010, MCV/Develop reported that key traditional retailers would stop offering games that integrate Steam.
A 2025 report by Analytics found that of the approximately 13,000 games released on Steam from January to October 2025, only 8% were estimated to have made revenues over $100,000, while 40% had failed to make more than $100, the cost of applying to publish a game on Steam. Steam's predominance has led to Valve becoming involved in various legal cases.
The lack of a formal refund policy led the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission, ACCC, to sue Valve in September 2014 for violating Australian consumer laws that required stores to offer refunds for faulty or broken products.
The ACCC won the lawsuit in March 2016, though recognizing Valve changed its policy in the interim.
In December 2016, the court fined Valve $3 million Australian dollars, as well as requiring Valve to include proper language for Australian consumers outlining their rights when purchasing games off of Steam.
In January 2018, Valve filed for special leave to appeal the decision to the High Court of Australia, but the High Court dismissed this request.
In September 2018, Valve's Steam refund policy was found to violate France's consumer laws, and it was fined €147,000 and required to modify its refund policy.
In December 2015, the French consumer group UFC Quattroiser initiated a lawsuit against Valve for several of its Steam policies that conflicted with French law, including the restriction on reselling of purchased games, which is legal within the European Union.
In September 2019, the Tribunal de Grande Instance de Paris found that Valve's practice of preventing resales violated the EU's Information Society Directive of 2001 and the Computer Programs Directive of 2009, and required them to allow it in the future.
The Interactive Software Federation of Europe, ISFE, issued a statement that the French court ruling goes against established EU case law related to digital copies and threatened to weaken much of the digital distribution systems in Europe, should it be upheld. In August 2016, BT Group filed a lawsuit against Valve, stating that Steam's client infringed on 4 of its patents, which it said were used within Steam's library, chat, messaging, and broadcasting services. In 2017, the European Commission began investigating Valve and 5 other publishers, Bandai Namco Entertainment, Capcom, Focus Home Interactive, Koch Media, and ZeniMax Media, for anti-competitive practices, specifically the use of geo-blocking to prevent access to software within certain countries within the European Economic Area.
Such practices would be against the Digital Single Market Initiative set by the European Union.
The French gaming trade group, Syndicat National du Jeu Video, noted that geo-blocking was a necessary feature to hinder inappropriate product reselling.
The Commission found in January 2021 that Valve and co-defendants had violated antitrust rules of the European Union, issued combined fines of €7.8 million, and determined that these companies may be further liable to lawsuits from affected consumers.
Valve chose not to cooperate and was fined €1.6 million, the most of any of the defendants. A January 2021 class action lawsuit filed against Valve asserted that it forced developers into entering a most favored nation type of pricing contract to offer games on its storefront, which required the developers to price their games the same on other platforms as they did on Steam, thus stifling competition.
Gamasutra's Simon Carlos analyzed the lawsuit and observed that Valve's terms only apply the resale of Steam keys and not games themselves, and thus the lawsuit may be without merit.
A separate class action lawsuit filed against Valve by Wildfire Games in April 2021 asserted that Steam is essentially a monopoly since developers must sell to PC users through it and that it's 30% cut-end. Most favored nation, pricing practices violate antitrust laws as a result of its position.
Valve's response, filed in July 2021, dismissed the complaint stating that it has no duty under antitrust law to allow developers to use free Steam keys to undersell prices for the games they sell on Steam, or to provide Steam keys at all.
Valve defended its 30% revenue as meeting the current industry standard and claimed Wildfire's figure for Steam's market share to lack evidence.
Wildfire's suit was dismissed by the presiding judge in November 2021 after determining that Wildfire had failed to show that Valve had a monopoly on game sales and that the 30% cut has remained unchanged throughout Valve's history.
Wildfire refiled its case, narrowing the complaint to Valve's use of its dominance to intimidate developers that sell their game for less on other marketplaces, which the judge allowed to proceed in May 2022.
According to Discovery, Valve was ordered to have Gabe Newell submit to a deposition for discussion of Valve's business strategy related to Steam.
On November 26, 2024, an order was entered certifying a class of game sellers who were allegedly injured by Valve's policies, and the case is now expected to proceed to trial. A similar lawsuit as Wildfire's was filed against Valve in the United Kingdom in 2024 as a collective action claim, accusing Valve of its favored pricing model, its high 30% revenue share, and requiring developers to funnel microtransactions for games through Steam's storefront.
The case was reviewed by the Competition Appeal Tribunal, which approved the suit to go forward in January 2026.
Another similar lawsuit was filed against Valve in June 2026 by the Netherlands Consumer Competition Claims Foundation, a non-profit consumer rights organization based on the high revenue share that Valve takes in addition to the favored pricing model. Valve changed the Steam terms of service in September 2024 to eliminate the forced arbitration clause, such that any disputes with a storefront are to be resolved within courtrooms and allowing for class action lawsuits. That's it for this episode today. Thank you for watching. Be sure to hit a like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you don't miss out any new videos as it happens, and we'll see you in the next one.